There's a town that lies nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains in the great American state of Pennsylvania. The name of the town is White Ash. With a town charter dating back to 1714, it's one of the oldest towns in the country. And as you can tell from how hard those smokestacks are puffing, it's also one of the coldest. Thankfully, the people of White Ash have a secret that's dark and very deep. A secret to keeping warm, bituminous coal. From bituminous coal as a product ingredient comes heat, power, transportation, and necessities and luxuries almost beyond count. And where, you might ask, does all that coal come from? The answer is places like Alden Mountain and towns just like White Ash, where it's dug from the mountains by the hardest working men in America, our coal miners. But while an industry supports the town supports the industry. Here are two of White Ash's finest young entrepreneurs, Catlin and Kyle, owners of the Double K gas station. Coming or going, they'll get you there. But a town can't be all work and no play. Hello, Alec. Hello, Lillian. Where are you two kids going? Why, they're going to SIF's. Don't let its Nordic theme fool you. The most popular place in every American town is the local diner, and SIF's is no exception. Home to the world-famous Stack Attack, SIF's have been filling the bellies of White Ashians since 1895. Yes, White Ash, founded by men who came from the four corners of the earth, bringing with them innovation, can-do spirit, and dark, dark secrets.
Big news is on the way. 2 brand new sales shows and 2 classic shows are returning to the experience this week. Sign up for our mailing list to learn more.
What's up, everybody? It's Kyle. How we doing? Welcome to In Stores This Week. I am Kyle. I am joined, as always, the man, the myth, Wickline, Dan Wickline.
How you doing, folks? Kyle, you seem to be a man without a hat.
I am. I went through all the trouble to shave my head, so I'm going to display it. The hat is right here if I need a safety blanket.
Okay.
But I'm going to try it without the hat because, I also don't have my green screen and my crazy backgrounds and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I'm feeling pretty exposed here. I'll be real honest. But we're building a new studio. I told everybody last week I wouldn't be back in that studio. And I just didn't have time to get the green screens hung and some of the other stuff done with everything else that's gone into building a studio.
Yep. But you got a Jim Lee Superman shirt on, so you'll be okay.
I do Action Comics 1000 Superman t-shirt. This t-shirt, there's a funny story behind this t-shirt, actually. DC tried to send me out the shirt, and they sent me one that wouldn't fit me. And I go, hey, thanks for the shirt. I'm giving it to my general manager. It won't fit me. And I get a message back from a friend of mine at DC going, what size shirt do you wear? And I told them, and they go, okay, I know where I can steal one. And I went, okay, are you going to get in trouble? And their exact response was, oh, this person won't notice. Come to find out, they were stealing the shirt from Ski, who I now work with on a regular basis. When he was at DC, because we wore the same size t-shirt. So they actually stole it out of his office before he knew they got it. And then a while later we were talking. He goes, yeah, I never got one. I'm kind of angry about it.
Did you confess?
No.
So if he's watching tonight,
come get it. It's a little sweaty. So it's In Stores This Week, but we have a special guest tonight. It's our it's our second special guest since Dan and I have been doing the show. We had Christopher Daniels once.
Right.
But we have a special guest, Dave Franchini from Zenescope Comics.
Yep. Dave's been there a long time. He's worked his way up from the bottom basically, and now is one of the top writers there and editors, and is one of the driving forces behind the company. And I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk to him in a while, but I reached out to him a couple weeks ago about the artist on a particular book. We struck up a conversation. I'm like, we ought to just get him on the show, because he was kind of telling me about some of the stuff they've got planned. I'm like, he ought to come on and just tell everybody about it.
Right. And for the people out there who don't know, you spent a long time during your career working for Zenescope.
I did a lot of different books for them. Starting off with a Sinbad series is where I started, but I jumped on all their different books, the Grimm fairy tales. I did some Neverland and Wonderland, and yeah, it got to a point where, especially if they needed a book done quickly, I would get the call. It's like, we need this written by tomorrow. Can you hook us up?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and it's particularly funny because Dan has largely jumped into that role here at the Experience too. So it's, hey, we need to send out a mailer in an hour, and we have no content. You fix it. So, but I'm very excited for that. That will largely be in a conversation between Dan and Dave about that. So, because we've got an interview, we should probably get right to the books.
That's a good idea.
So which books would you like to start with this week?
Why don't we go right into Marvel? Start big.
Okay. Let's start big. Let's start with the biggest of the big.
Yep. That's the biggest of the big.
I don't know how he's there and here.
Infinity Stone. It's a space stone. He can be in two places at once.
Okay.
All right. So this is Thanos Quest, Marvel Tales #1. But the important thing here is it's Jim Starlin and Ron Lim. These are the guys who have done some of the best Thanos stories. I mean, Jim Starlin is the creator of Thanos. Ron Lim does amazing artwork in these big space epics. So right there, you got a reason to buy this book.
Mm-hmm.
But here we have Thanos undertaking a new epic quest. And, they're kind of celebrating the legacy of House of Ideas with Marvel Tales. Well, this anthology series shines a spotlight on fan favorite characters. So this week it's going to be Thanos, or this month. And so we get the Mad Titans return, scouring the cosmos, battling the Elders of the Universe. And I'm a big fan of the Elders of the Universe. Of course, those are Grandmaster and the Collector, the characters you see popping up in the Marvel Universe. Ego the Living Planet is also technically one of the Elders of the Universe. And they're, of course, he's going after the Infinity Gems. So we get to see how Thanos gains mastery of the mind, power, reality, soul, space, and time. And, we get, if you didn't get enough with the MCU, here is a chance to get a Thanos story from the guy that created him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the hard to come by Thanos Quest. So this is a reprint of Thanos Quest 1 and 2, which was, the definitive Thanos collection. Really, I mean, you got 100. Listen to this. Marvel never gives you a deal this good. All right. Are you ready? 112 pages for $7.99. That's a really good deal from Marvel Comics. And again, it's a Thanos Quest #1 sells for between $20 and $50 in good shape. Thanos Quest #2 is higher than that. And this is a way that you can read them. Marvel, one of the things I loved that Marvel used to do was the Marvel True Believers books, which were $1 reprints of books that you couldn't put your hands on. I don't know how many people, especially how many kids who are just getting into comics, can walk out and drop the dime it takes to buy Amazing Spider-Man 300, but the Marvel True Believers, you could buy an ASM 300 for $1. Right. It was a reprint. This is a great way to get two huge books that were prestige bound when they came out. Reissued in this way.
30 years ago. Yeah.
1990. I was I wasn't very old.
No, I was, but I was having a beer while reading it. How's that? We'll put it that way.
I was probably eating some kind of strained peas or carrots.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm kidding. I was probably on real food by then, but not much. I was this many.
Yeah.
So let's move on to another.
By the way, if Ski figures out you've got his shirt, you may be eating strained peas and carrots again.
That's fair. Super fair. He doesn't work there anymore. So.
Yeah, Heroes Reborn #1, Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness. This is what I thought was going to be the big book, is what you were talking about.
I think, well, the biggest of the big, because Thanos is bigger than everybody.
Right,
this book is the biggest deal.
Yes. And I mean, the whole premise of this is you have a world without Avengers. There's no Tony Stark. Or Tony Stark never built the Iron Man armor. Thor is a hard-drinking atheist who despises hammers. That's kind of a weird one. Wakanda is dismissed as a myth, and Captain America was never found in the ice. There was no Avengers to find him. Instead, this world has been protected by Earth's mightiest heroes, the Squadron Supreme. Now, I have always loved the Squadron Supreme, so I love seeing them come back. But the Squadron now faces off an attack from some of their fiercest enemies like Dr. Juggernaut, the Black Skull, Silver Witch, and Thanos. So we get more Thanos with the Infinity Rings.
With the Infinity Rings, which is an homage to... Yeah. I'm going to change covers on you real quick. I just want to throw this up there. This is the George Perez variant.
Very nice.
Which is a 1 in 100. Wait. Oh, this is the George Perez Hidden Gem variant. Mm-hmm. There's another version of this that's very similar. That's a Pacheco variant. But George's is a modified Pacheco, which is interesting. And I'm looking at them side by side, and it's freaking me out, man.
Now, if you think this is just an Elseworld story, think again, because there is actually one person who remembers the world before all of this, and that's Blade.
Right.
So Blade's going to be walking around going, this ain't right. This ain't right.
No.
You know? And of course, the Squadron Supreme was Marvel's, what's a good way, JLA knockoff?
Yeah, I would say it was more, they're JLA, or they're even more the Justice Society. You know, because the JLA was always their tent poles. Whereas the Justice Society, the original Justice Society, kind of were characters that maybe weren't as tent-pole-y, but were still super important.
But you're looking at these characters. Hyperion is basically Superman. Nighthawk is Batman. Princess Power is Wonder Woman. Speed Demon's Flash. And Dr. Spectrum is Green Lantern. That's the Justice League.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I always equated it a little more to because they're secondary characters, not Marvel tentpole characters. Mm-hmm. I always thought the Avengers was Marvel's Justice League because they're tentpole characters. Yeah, these are a little bit less, Yeah.
I like J.D. Smith's comment. I never dug the guy wearing a corset and a cape. Hey, people want to do what they want to do, man.
We learned on the cosplay show we have here on The Experience the other day that corsets are not just for being shapely. Sometimes they're for structural integrity.
There you go.
And sometimes you need that corset to keep everything where it's supposed to be.
Uh-huh. And how else do you think William Shatner was able to do the Star Trek movies?
CGI.
Yeah, it was before CGI. All right. So since this is May the 4th and everybody's talking Star Wars, I had to throw one Star Wars book on there. This is the long-awaited Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha.
Yes.
It's written by Charles Soule, drawn by Steve McNiven. Charles Soule just did the Light of the Jedi novel, which I read and was absolutely fantastic. Now, this is, come on, how many people watched Empire Strikes Back all those years ago and said, to heck with this, I want to follow these bounty hunters. I want to know about Boba Fett and IG-88 and Dengar and Bosk and those guys. Well, this is War of the Bounty Hunters. This is focusing on the bounty hunters that we've all known and loved since them. And there's just, and this is all them going after Han Solo because of the bounty that Jabba has put on his head.
There are a mountain of covers for this book. Just a ton of covers.
Yep.
But one that's worth noting is the John Tyler Christopher action figure variant, which is Black Armor Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Something to think about.
Yep. Now, see, I know White Armor Boba Fett was basically the first Mandalorian, was basically a super trooper for the Empire. So I don't know of a Black Armor Boba Fett.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember it anywhere from any of the shows or anything or movies or any of the comics I've read. So maybe this is some sort of it's related to some sort of prototype, or maybe it's something that happens in the book.
Could be. Absolutely could be. Yeah, because I think the Mandalorians have, according to a friend of mine, the colors all mean something.
Mm-hmm.
There is significance in each of the colors. You know, they're honoring your family, you're honoring the code, things like that, depending on which color you put up there. And black, I don't believe, or it would be weird to have somebody in all black.
Well, maybe it's just, that Boba Fett is a fan of The Cure.
Could be, which is one of the least gothic bands I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, but still somehow.
Mm-hmm. My ex-wife was a big fan of The Cure, and I'd listen to Friday I'm in Love, and I'm like, how is this gothic? How's this goth?
I don't know. But I think we have one more Marvel book on the list.
We do. The important one.
Yes, the end of the Curse of the Man-Thing story arc.
Yes.
But an introduction. This is a minor first appearance. So make sure you pick this one up when it comes out, because we all know what's happening with minor first appearances these days. This is the introduction of the Dark Riders.
Uh-huh.
But it's Steve Orlando, who I have a big announcement about coming out later this week, early next week. Keep that in mind. And Dan's been on this show enough to know that I am digging everything Steve Orlando puts on paper these days.
He is. He's about ready to move to Orlando, Florida, just in a tribute to Steve. So this is the third of the series. We started, of course, with Avengers Curse of the Man-Thing #1. Then we had Spider-Man Curse of the Man-Thing #1. Now we get X-Men Curse of the Man-Thing #1, wraps it up. And I love this. It says the Man-Thing's curse has been revealed, but it's under new management. I love that.
What is that line? I don't.
Someone else has taken over the curse? And I like the idea that magic is involved in this, because if there's any character that kind of I could see kind of working with Man-Thing, that makes sense to me. You know?
Mm-hmm. My thing is that I'm not right in the solicitation, right at the top, it talks about Krakoa. And now we're in Krakoa with the X-Men, which is where the X-Men have been since the whole Jonathan Hickman thing started. And we're meeting magically will lead one of the most eclectic groups of mutants ever assembled. A fearsome mix of fan favorites and obscure delights. Marrow, Four-Armed Shark Girl, Wolf Cub, and Mammomax. The Dark Riders.
Dude, There's a guy with the elephant's head and a girl with a shark's head.
Mm-hmm. So just so you know, that's actually Shark Girl.
Yeah,
with the shark's head.
it's a girl with a shark's head.
And a Mammomax is a mammoth. That's the elephant head. And you also have Wolf Cub, who has a wolf head.
Yes.
As well as Forearm, which is a dude with 4 arms. And yes. Marrow,
who can make bone protrusions, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
She's essentially Bone Claw Wolverine.
So this was the everybody was out on holiday team.
Yeah, these are the team working at X-Men headquarters when everybody else is on Thanksgiving break. You know, they don't have enough PTO to take vacations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and this is the graveyard shift of that time.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, say what you will, though. Steve Orlando has been on fire. This whole series has been great that he's been doing. You know, I want to not like it. I really want to not like it.
Why? Why would you want to not like it? It's Man-Thing.
I want to not like this one because it's the X-Men. Like, I wanted the end of the Man-Thing saga to be Man-Thing, Curse of the Man-Thing.
Oh,
him getting his powers back. If you've read the other ones, it's really not traditional Man-Thing. I wanted the end to be Man-Thing becoming Man-Thing again. And that may happen in this book. I've only seen the first couple of pages.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough to tell. But, the fact that it's the X-Men with Man-Thing is the one thing that I was never quite wild about with this. But, again, I will say this. Steve Orlando has been on absolute fire. And who am I to question it?
Yeah. It should have been Howard the Duck, though.
Howard the Duck, Curse of the Man-Thing?
Yes. That's the direction I would have gone.
Introducing the ducklets. The ducklings.
Okay. Ducklings. Duck confit.
Now I want chicken wings. Okay. Before we go to break, because we got about 8 minutes before we have to go to break and come back with Dave, who is waiting patiently in the green room, I think.
Hello, Dave.
Hi. Let's talk about. He just gave me a thumbs up. Let's flip over and talk about. One of your other favorite teams. We talked about one of your favorite teams earlier.
All right.
One of your other favorite teams, the Crime Syndicate.
Yes, I think I just really like fake versions of the Justice League. Is what I'm learning from this episode tonight. You know,
I mean, if you had to pick a thing,
yeah. You know, if you need a hobby, this is Andy Schmidt and Kieran McCown. Crime Syndicate forces combined for the first time. Seeds are sown to change the world forever. But before that can happen, Ultraman Superia, so she's changed her name to Superia now. I don't remember that. Johnny Quick, Atomica, and Emerald Knight must survive a final battle against Starro. I like Starro.
Yes. Plus, Earth 3's Alexander Luthor makes his debut. Finally, we've only been hearing about it for how long now? And the question of the month on Earth 3, are Starro's friends or foes? There's more than one? Of course they're foes if there's more than one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you get bugs. And we've all seen the end of Little Shop of Horrors. Multiple things like that, never a good sign.
True.
And in the backup story, witness the origin of Superwoman.
Right.
Again.
Now, is that Suspiria is now Superwoman, or is that a different? I'm confused.
I think that it's a different one.
Okay.
Because this is Earth 3.
Ah, right. Okay.
Andy Schmidt just messing with our brains. But also, guys, this book features some Brian Hitch art, so see if you can figure out which ones it is. And we have a variant cover by Babs Tarr.
Oh, nice.
Actually, give me 1 second. We'll put it up on screen here because it's worth note. It's really cool. Get it loaded up here real fast.
Oh, yeah.
That is a great Babs Tarr cover. I mean, it's everything Babs is known for, and then some.
It's a cool looking cheetah. You know how hard it is to draw animals? Jeez.
Well, they say don't work with kids or animals, and I can see why.
Yep.
So also out from DC this week is this book, which is likely to be as popular as the first volume of this book.
Yeah, these things sold like mad.
Yes.
So
hotcakes don't sell this well.
Yeah, I don't play Fortnite, so I don't get it. But you got Christos Gage, Christian I want to say Duce.
I have no idea.
Christian D. So you got Batman is trapped on the island, unable to speak. His memory is gone, having to fight to survive against the deadliest warriors of countless worlds. Can even the world's greatest detective escape this trap when time itself resets every 22 minutes? And will the presence of someone else from Gotham City, a familiar feline fatale, help or hinder his effort, especially when they don't remember each other? In another life, they were enemies, friends, partners, but here on the island, can they do anything but battle to the death? So,
things you need to know. One, all of these books come with redeemable codes for Fortnite, where you can get Batman stuff for Fortnite. But issue 1 is going to second print. Issue 2 already has a second print announced. Issue 3 already has a second print announced. And literally, just as we were sitting here at 8:25 Eastern, in this week's DC Direct channel, which just came out, Batman Fortnite 0.4, which is still 2 issues from being released, is getting a second printing.
Hey, we're breaking news. All right.
That's how heavy the orders are on these books.
Yeah, these books grossly underordered.
Well, talking to retailers, there were a lot of there were a lot of people who didn't think it was going to hit the way it should have. It did. And there were a lot of stores that are like, we don't make any money on Fortnite. We don't do video games. Well,
you're about to get some new customers.
You was wrong. This book sold really well for most stores, and it's a real boon for people who can get it. So just be aware, though, going into your stores, they may be pointing you to second printings of the first volume or the first few issues, at least the first 4, as they may already be sold out.
Yeah, you might want to call tonight and ask them to reserve one for you tomorrow for issue 2. Mm-hmm. So
if you're not here on the East Coast, you could probably still do that.
Yep.
Try and get that added to your list just in time. But I'm guessing that a large portion of stores will already be out.
Yep, good chance. Now, this is coming out weekly, right?
No, it's bi-weekly.
Okay, bi-weekly. Okay.
Yeah, because the first one was 2 weeks ago.
All right. It's all a blur to me. Yeah.
It is. Time is an irrelevant construct. Speaking of time, let's take our break, and when we come back, we'll be here with Dave Franchini, who I'm hoping I say his name right because he's in the room and can hear me mispronounce it if I said it wrong. And we will be back in about just about 30 seconds here on The Experience. It's a real quick break, so stick around.
Big news is on the way. 2 brand new sales shows and 2 classic shows are returning to The Experience this week. Sign up for our mailing list to learn more.
What's up, the internet? It's Kyle. Welcome back to In Stores This Week. I will be joined momentarily again by Dan and by Dave. But first, I wanted to take a second and let you guys know that Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope, if you still use Periscope, we have a new live show debuting called Collector's Haven. It's hosted by a guy named Anthony and his wife Sarah and their friends. They will be bringing you a new sales show. And then Friday night at 7 Eastern, the return of the original art experience, which you may remember as We Love Original Art. It's coming back as the original art experience with Nick and Will. It's a 1-hour show on Friday nights starting at 7. And then Saturday at 6, the return of Comic Collectibles with Dynamic Forces here on the experience. Guys, these are all great sales shows for you to have an opportunity to pick up some great comics. But we also have a new show debuting this week from our own Dan Wickline. It's a show he does called Pop Goes the Writers. That show will be debuting on Saturday as well. We'll have a big scheduling announcement coming out next week here on the experience with some updates as to that kind of thing. So while we wait for Dan to return, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the next segment, which is an interview because Dan's back now between Dan and longtime cohort and office and work proximity associate Dave Franchini. Dave, welcome to the show, man.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Okay.
Did I say it right?
Franchini.
I can't. I have to step out.
Okay.
Right back.
Dan will be right back. He can't hear us. He has technical issues, which happens all the time. It's just the thing we have to cope with. So do you have any good Dan stories? Since he's not here and can't hear us?
We never really worked in the office together. It was kind of like, it was more just like Dan wrote for us. I've only met Dan like at conventions and stuff like that and hung out there. But
okay.
We never.
That doesn't mean you don't have any good Dan stories. You remember that one time he missed a deadline?
Well, we don't.
No, I'm just kidding.
Bring those up. Those aren't stories. You can't bring those kind of things up.
No, he's just, I'm just messing with you. But so I will let you guys have at it talking about Zenescope. But I do want to ask one question. Whose idea was the Bunny Man?
It was Joe. Joe pitched it, and then him, and Ralph just kind of tore into it and made some craziness.
That book was my favorot book that week. I loved that book so much.
That was awesome.
We just sent issue 2 to print today, so hopefully you guys like that just as much. There's a lot more. Like if you thought that was crazy, this one gets a little weirder. If we could do that, there's a little love. There's a little maiming. And there's fires. There's like I'm trying to say a lot of things. It keeps going up a little bit, and there's less poo. I'm sorry to tell you, but yeah. I hope you guys like this next one. It literally just went to print. I don't know, like 3 hours ago.
Awesome. So
it's such a fun concept.
I'll let you guys talk.
All right.
Awesome.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How about you, Dan?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you, man. It's been a day or two, hasn't it?
Hey, it's been every year's a day. Yes, it's been a day or two.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get the folks a good idea who you have been with Zenescope a long time, but you worked your way up. So, how'd you get in the door, and where are you at now? What was the trajectory for Dave at Zenescope?
Magic and wishes and bunny tails and bunny feet. No, I mean honestly, it's crazy. Like it's still crazy to me now. I kind of started out in college I went to college for computer science, and I have a bachelor's in computer science, so I have nothing to do with comics. Like not even an English minor, nothing. Like I always loved comics. I've always the comics have been in my life. But it was never anything like, oh, okay, that's what I can physically do. Like I never knew I could do it. And then I needed an internship, and I went on. Like I wasn't even looking on Zenescope for an internship. I was on their website, and it wasn't well done. Like it was loading at the time, and I clicked the wrong button. It's funny. I went to buy Sinbad, which you wrote. I was buying issue like 3 or 4, and I was trying to buy it, and when I went to click to buy it, like it shifted up, and I clicked the MySpace link, and then it brought me to MySpace, and I'm like, that's weird. That's how old this, like how long ago this was. I was like,
Yeah.
so it was like I went to the MySpace link, and it said in the little like blog area, it's like interns needed. I was like, oh, well, that's weird. I'm like, I need an internship, so I went on there, I wrote a message, and then they wrote back to me instantly, like, yeah, please contact Ralph Tedesco. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, dear Mr. Tedesco, like I never wrote one of these emails before, and I was like, I would like to intern for you if you need one. Like, yeah, come on in. I went out and bought a suit. I went to like Men's Warehouse, got fitted for a suit. I was like, oh, I'm probably not gonna get this internship, but I'm gonna need a suit for all the other internship, like whatever interviews I gotta do. So I went in there, and then Ralph laughs at me. Like he's like I'm sitting on the couch, and there's like a case of Miller Lite sitting in front of me, and I'm like, man, I gotta get a job here. And then he comes down, he laughs. He's like, I'm sorry, man. He's like, I should have told you we're kind of like casual. I was like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, probably. I was like, it's $3. But then I was
say that's the last day you ever wore a suit to work.
Yeah, I only wear them sadly for funerals and weddings. That's it. That's like I use that. Like I still got that suit, still rocking it 12 years later. It's very outdated, but but no, yeah. I mean, it's funny because like I got in the Zenescope at Wizard World Philly when I went to the booth and they had Sinbad issue 0 and issue 1, and then they didn't even have Grimm Volume 1, so I bought Grimm Volume 2, like the trade. And that's how I kind of got into the books. And that's when it led me to go to the website. So like, you're kind of to blame in a way, in a sense, like when you think about it, because I was going there to buy the next issue you were writing, and it led me down this rabbit hole of Zenescope. And I've been here for 12 years, basically. I think my internship was March 2009.
This might be my best legacy then. So.
No, I mean,
now, what is your title now?
I mean, don't really. It's not like we're not really specific with titles. Like, basically, what happened is I started as an intern, then I worked in shipping, moved into sales. I went up like kind of running our sales because I was the only salesperson, so I wasn't like running it, but I was like running it. So I did that for about 6 years, and then Ralph was moving into film and television, and he was going to head that up and move to LA. And I always wanted to be in editing, so they kind of let me kind of come in editing. And then eventually I kind of accidentally took it over. Like it just like one day they're like, oh, well, yeah, you're like, what's going on with this? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, well, you're the head of this. You need to know what's going on. I'm like, when did I become the head of this? I'm like, all right. Like, and I just kind of roll with it. So like, it was never like an official, like, here's what you are. It's like, it's always like, here's more duties. And I kept loving to do them. I was like, all right, I'll do more. I'll do covers. I'll do this. I'm like, yeah, I love this. This is what I love. So like, I don't know. I don't really, I just call myself editor, writer, and that's really it. Like there was no like an official like presenting of like, hey, here's what you are. But I mean, like that, like right now it's like I kind of just I run our editing from like finding writers, hiring writers, like picking out art teams, finding art teams, covers, like the limited edition ones, the regular ones on there, like. And I love all that. Like, it doesn't give me a lot of time to sleep, but I love every second of it because every time I open my email, it's a little mini Christmas every basically every 10 minutes.
Nice. So now, what was the first book you wrote for them?
It was kind of two. Like the first one that came out was Grimm Universe, The Goblin Queen. It was issue number 3 of Grimm. It was just called Grimm Universe Goblin Queen, issue number 3. And then but right before that, I wrote a 10-page story in our Discovery Channel Shark Book one. And like, so I wrote the story for the Shark Book first, but the Grimm Universe one came out first. But they literally came out like a month apart from each other. But that was the first thing. Like even for that, like I went to Raven and I was kind of half joking, but kind of half serious. And we're at San Diego, and I was like, so when are you going to let me write something, man? And he was just because he was our executive editor at the time. And he's like, well, you want to write something? I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, why don't you give me like an idea of like the origin of the Goblin Queen? I was like, all right. So like we finished out did San Diego. Like I was doing sales at the time. And then that Monday or Tuesday when we came back, because we fly on the red eye, and I came back that Monday, woke up, didn't come into work because I was sleeping. And then I started outlining the thing, like the outlining the story. And then it kind of like in that week, I made Raven worked with me, and we kind of got it right to where we needed to be. but it was luck. All of it's luck, luck and timing.
Yeah, I remember pitching some stories back and forth with Raven. The Wonderland crossovers with Lovecraft were, phone calls between Raven and I.
The Call of Madness and Madness in Wonderland. Or,
yeah, Call of Wonderland, Madness of Wonderland.
Call of Wonderland and Madness of Wonderland. Yep.
Yep.
We still got those here. We still use them to inform some of our other stuff. Like, actually use some of that, a lot of that stuff, like to inform the Birth of Madness one shot we did a few years ago, where it introduced like the Elder Gods into like where Wonderland's madness came from too. So
cool. So now you and I had a talk the other day, and you were telling me that you guys are maybe changing up a little bit what your focus is. You're focusing on one shots and shorter series and stuff like that. So what is the new approach for Zenescope?
I mean, we've kind of started it, and it kind of happened where like I think we had a story meeting in like November, and we're like, all right, this is what we're doing. And then like we kind of like we planned it a little bit before that, but like what we're doing now is making everything new reader friendly, but also good for long time, like easy to jump in for new readers, but also it feeds into the long-term continuity like readers. So for right now, we're doing Robin Hood, Van Helsing, and Bell. We're doing that bi-monthly 32 page stories. And each one's a single one shot of that character. So it's like it can slightly build on the continuity of that character, but each story kind of is meant there to introduce a new reader to this character, but also introduce a new villain or a recurring villain that's come back. It's almost like we kind of went to the old way of DC doing, like when it was like Batman, and it was like Batman presents the Joker, and then the next issue was like Batman versus the Riddler, and then the next issue was like Batman Return of the Joker. So we kind of took that process, and we're like, we all kind of love that story process where you get one whole story at once, like one sitting. Everybody likes the binge stuff now, so it's like you get one whole story instead of like, okay, you get 22 pages of this five like this one story that really is 5 chapters. It's a 5-chapter long book. We condense it down to like, all right, we're getting a full story. We're adding 10 more pages, sometimes a little bit more, so you can get a full story of that. And then we can kind of each one slightly builds on the other one, but not enough that new readers would be like, I'm so lost, but enough that like longtime readers can be like, I can see where this is going. Okay, like they talked about that in the last issue. Like you don't need to know that, but like it's cool to know that. So like you're in kind of like in the club. And then we're also doing that with like 64-page stories, which is our annuals. So those are more just to kind of keep in line, like keep in mind like like Wonderland, Neverland, Oz, like the different realms, and some of the characters that we don't have coming out bi-monthly. So it's like you'll have like a Gretel one shot, or you'll have a Mystere one shot, or Red Riding Hood, and it's basically there to make sure that the fan base of those characters aren't being left like out in the cold. It's so we can kind of keep them around, but it also kind of gives us the freedom to like, all right, we can do stuff in these bigger stories, and it's like you have 64 pages or 70 sometimes, like, or we like that's our annuals, and we do the quarterlies that are 72 pages. And it gives you more room to kind of play with, but also set up other things that can affect other characters in our other stories. And then we can spin out like, okay, we did whatever a Red Riding Hood annual, and now we're gonna come out and we're gonna do a one shot coming up, or we're gonna do another one that ties into that, or we just did a Mystere annual, and that bleeds into the Robin Hood bi-monthly, and then you'll see Mystere show up in the bi-monthly with Robin Hood. Like, so we're trying to interconnect it, but not make it confusing, and also give people like more for their money. And then for miniseries, we've kind of done away with like the Grimm Universe miniseries, at least for right now. Like we're this whole year is a test, like a trial run to kind of see how everything goes. And right now, it seems that the fans are liking it. But for the miniseries that we're doing now, we're doing one miniseries a quarter, so it's 4 3-issue miniseries, and they're going to be outside of the Grimm fairy tale universe. So the first one we did was like the Carrier, Liberty and Death, and that's the one that Ralph wrote. And that was a 3-issue story, kind of in the universe of the Carrier that he wrote like back in 2017, I think. And then we just did Man, Goat, and the Bunny Man is the one that we're doing now. So that'll be 3 issues. And then the one after that's going to be written by Hans Rodionoff and Adam F. Goldberg from the Goldbergs. Like he's
Right.
the one who's the creator of the Goldbergs, and they're actually doing this story called Possessive, and it falls in line. It's not it's not in line as like super crazy with Man, Goat, and the Bunny Man, but it's definitely there because it's. I don't want to spoil it yet because we haven't really put too much out, but it's a ghost story, but it's a little modern day ghost story. I kind of look at it as I think we put it as like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, kind of mixed with Money Pit and The Grudge. So it's a little bit of everything coming up. Like, so that we're really excited about. We just got the first script in for that, and we're going to start working on that very soon. But yeah, so that's what we're kind of, that's how we're going to do the mini series going forward. Is they're going to be outside the Grimm universe, 3 issues, and they're pretty much going to be self-contained. You don't need to read anything else to get into them.
Cool. Now, you talked about Neverland, and this week you have the Neverland Annual coming out. Was it number 21?
No, well, it just went to print this week. It just went to print. I think there was an original delay. It got delayed like 2 weeks. We had some shuffling here, but the annual just came out, or it just went to print today with Man, Goat, and Bunny Man 2.
Oh, okay, because we had it listed actually coming out today. But what can you tell me about the annual coming up for Neverland? I mean, I remember it being Hook was the hero of the story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, still that we've grown the characters more. Like we've done, the last time we've actually seen the Neverland characters was actually in Grimm Fairy Tales. I think issues 31, 32, 33. That was like last year. Like the last time we saw any of the Neverland characters. That was just Tinkerbell, Tiger Lily, a new queen called the Croc Queen, like the Queen of Crocs, Croc Queen. And we introduced them there. We didn't touch on where Pan, where Hook is, where anybody is. But then we actually did a one-shot a few years ago called Return of Hook. And where we left that one off, we left that with kind of a cliffhanger. And then this story actually wraps up that cliffhanger. So, but you don't need to read the other one to read this. We cover it all. We kind of fill it back in. But the way we left the other story was that Wendy, she killed one of the evil fairies, and that evil fairy inhabited her. And so, and then at the same time, Pan also sucked the life almost out of Dr. Harlow, which is Hook's mentor, who's a psychiatrist growing up. And so, like, we left that story where it was like Harlow's near death, Wendy's possessed, and now Hook has to deal with all that. And so, like, this is picking up that thread, and it jumps you right into it. Like, starts off right away with some Crocs, some familiar settings in Neverland, and then it kind of goes from there, and it goes a little more emotional, and it also goes into more of just it kind of expands the universe a little bit and gives you more in depth in all the different characters that are now in Neverland.
I remember, I think I got to play with Hook in that universe for Age of Darkness, that miniseries, which was a long time ago. And I remember Hook being a fun character to write. A little bit almost John McClane-ish from Die Hard.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's breaking the fourth wall wouldn't have surprised me with the character. And, you know, very cognizant of the insanity that he's living in. I mean, is that still where we're going with that character? Is that?
He definitely has his wit and his little sarcasm, and he's a little bit more like he's definitely got the John McClane where he's just like he's headstrong, where he's gonna do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, and also like, but this one kind of goes in a little more of like he's beaten and broken a little bit. He's lost his brother when he was a kid. He's technically lost Wendy and her nephews, and now he's losing Harlow. So now he's on his last rope of, I need to do something to make sure everything doesn't fall apart, because he worked hard to get where he was. So like he still definitely has all that. He has that personality still, but it's definitely another end of the spectrum where it's like not everything's working out for him. It's not all fun and adventure. He's in Neverland for a purpose, and people are going to get in his way to try to prevent him from that purpose.
All right. I always found it funny when you guys had new characters. The John McClane reference to Hook. I remember when I was first came on to do Sinbad, Ralph and Joe pitched it to me as James Bond meets Captain Jack Sparrow,
Okay.
which in my mind immediately went, "How is that possible?" But so I always loved the way they would pitch stories and plots and stuff. Now, another book that's slated to come out this week, but is it also delayed? Van Helsing Steampunk One Shot.
Let me double check because I live a few weeks ahead. So this week is 5/5. Yeah, that'll be out. That's coming out. Van Helsing the Steampunk One Shot, and that actually it loosely ties into the book that came out last week, which the Grimm Universe presents quarterly, Steampunk. So like I was kind of saying, like, we set them up in these bigger books and then we kind of trickle them into the smaller books. So like the team that was introduced in the book from last week, now Van Helsing gets to be introduced to them in her universe. But you don't need to read anything. You don't even need to read last week's book. I mean, we want you to, and it would add more to you, like to the story coming for you. But everything's pretty much covered in here. This could literally be your first Van Helsing book or steampunk book you read, and you're going to be fine.
Now, tell me about the Van Helsing character. It's one of the few that I didn't get a chance to play with, so she's completely new to me. So, and I'm assuming to a lot of readers as well. Now, first thing, was this tied to the TV series? I thought there was some connection between Zenescope and the TV series.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a loose connection. There's a loose connection and there's a connection. I know they sold the rights to the character to Sci-Fi, but the stories are completely different. Like not completely, but a little bit different. Where they're mostly different. It's the TV show kind of has its own universe, but use the character and use the name. And use the rights. But I mean, I'm not really sure on that whole end of like the deal point or anything like that. But it was our show that we sold to them. They just kind of ran their own direction with it, it's fine. It's TV. You can do whatever you want. We still had the comic going. For like the TV show, I know her character. I honestly haven't fully watched the whole series. But her character is basically, it's kind of like she wakes up in a future where vampires have taken over the world, and it's kind of like The Walking Dead. It's like how Rick Grimes would wake up and zombies are everywhere. She wakes up and vampires are everywhere. Our Van Helsing character, there's a lot more. It's a lot more complicated, but also it's a lot more straightforward. She's the daughter of Abraham Van Helsing, from the 1800s. She actually gets time hopped from the 1800s to the present. So now she's a modern day steampunk inventor that hunts vampires and also other monsters. Because as we've gone on, she started with just hunting Dracula, hunting vampires. Then we moved on to like Frankenstein. We moved on to the werewolf, the mummy. We've introduced Dracula's daughter. We've introduced the League of Monsters, which is basically kind of like her Sinister Six, her Legion of Doom. Which is all the monsters combined to fight to take out Van Helsing. But she's like a genius inventor who still uses steampunk technology because that's what she knows. But also her stuff is so much more advanced than some of our stuff. So she's always creating herself new weapons.
Okay. And that does come out this week.
Yep.
Who's the artist on the actual issue? Because you guys tend to list Igor Vitorino, and I believe he's the cover artist.
He's the cover artist on that one. Yeah, that's the way the way you list it in Diamond. They really only take they don't even take the colors. They always just take the cover artist, like just the first artist on there. And then also sometimes we're doing so many books that we don't have the full art teams figured out while we're soliciting them. We know what we're going to do, but we don't lock anybody in until we have contracts signed and everything starts moving. For this one, it's actually Vicente Cifuentes.
Okay.
I know he's done a lot of work with DC, but yeah, like his stuff is like, it's almost like I'm holding it now. So it's like it's very very detailed, very realistic looking. And then the colorist is Robbie Bavard. He's actually been coloring a lot of the Van Helsing stuff, so we kind of try to keep it like familiar. But he's them two together just blew this book away. I'm seeing if I can find a page that isn't super spoily, but also is cool in action. I'll give you one. It's kind of so you get a little.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
But yeah, this book looks amazing, and then it's like the story is really cool too. And it's like, and it's kind of like when you read it, it's building into our larger universe. Like, so we're like something happening in Van Helsing number 50 that kind of opened our universe up to potential other universes coming into ours. So now we're getting new characters, we're getting new storylines that we get to kind of play with, which is super fun. Like, I'm super excited about some of the stuff we have coming up that we still got to map down all the way, but I think it's going to be really cool.
Actually, that's a good question for us to end on. Is there anything in the hopper that you want to tease, or that you can that fans should be really looking out for?
Everything. We have. We have Grim Fairy Tales 50. The second 50 we've done. Volume 2's 50. We have that coming up. That's coming up at the end of June. And then we also have Possessive, which is going to be really like that's that. I'm as excited as I am for Grim 50. I'm just very excited. Like, I'm excited on a lot of these like non-Grim stuff that kind of like gives us a chance to get people that aren't into Grim Fairy Tales into everything else. And so I'm really excited about that book. I have this schedule up here, so I'm just looking down the list. Anything that's really like popping out. I mean, we have a Robin Hood annual that's kind of been building up throughout the months. Where like if you've seen like there was Belle, King of Serpents, then there was Black Knight versus Lord of Flies, then there's a Hercules Pain coming up versus Scorpion Queen. All these characters loosely tied together, and you're gonna see that story kind of unfold in Robin Hood Annual, which is gonna be really cool. It's a 64-page book, so that's gonna be this giant action packed, almost like a trade coming out or a graphic novel coming out.
Oh, very cool. Okay. And then one more on a personal thing. When you go to the comic shop, if you get to go to the comic shop, I found that more people in the industry have less time to actually go. But what books do you look for when you get to the shop? What are you reading right now?
That's the sad part. Like, I literally have about a white box and a half full of books that I've had for about 2 years now. I haven't been able to keep up. Like, it's good and it's bad. Like, because I've read all of our books a million times, and I get to create them, and we get to do everything on there. But I don't get to read everybody else's book. Like, every once in a while, I might read like reviews on some stuff to kind of get an idea where things are going. But honestly, I miss going to the store and buying stuff. But when I did go, and when I could get a lot of like books and keep up, like, my favorites were always, besides ours, of course. But I mean, my favorites were always like, I love Manifest Destiny. Like, that was something that I love that. I loved like Batman, Flash, Spider-Man. Like, I love a lot of the mainstream stuff, but then I would always pick up like random new things from Image, and it sucks because I see so many cool stories coming out from everybody else, but I'm like, I just don't have the time to even like to go there. Like, plus, I feel guilty because that white box just stares at me, and it's like, please just read one of us, and I'm like, I can't. I must sleep.
Sleep is overrated.
I was literally saying it last night. I was like, if only I didn't have to sleep. I'm like, there's so much I'd get done. And I'm like, I wish I could be one of those guys that can do 2 hours. Just 2 hours of sleep would be great. But I sadly need like 5.
All right. Well, Dave, I appreciate you coming on and you talking about the books and stuff. I hope things just keep going good for you guys over there.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having us on, like, have me on, at least give us an outlet to talk about everything, and hopefully we get some more people to kind of jump in. And then we'll have to talk about because I've been thinking about like what you were saying with the Sinbad stuff, with the Jack Sparrow mixed with James Bond, and now I actually see it and I get it, where he's a little suave, but he's also kind of like, he's not goofy, but he was more like, he would let things kind of happen. Where like he was just like, it's gonna work out. I know it. It'll be all right. And that's the Jack Sparrow thing. So I kind of love that. And it's funny because like I'm not just filling your ego or tooting your horn, but like that's what got me into like Zenescope. And that's what I love. That was one of my favorite like books. And I've been over the years trying to pitch a way to figure out how to bring Sinbad back, and then essentially try to like we'll have to figure that out. But I'm working.
Hey, I am there. So if you want me back for Sinbad, I am absolutely there.
Let me keep whittling away at them. I'll get them. I'll get there for some kind of Sinbad return. I love Sinbad. Like I just got to figure out we got to figure out the right way to do it. But I mean, I think it's definitely there.
All right. Well, again, thank you, and let's see if we can get Kyle to come back. And I think we're going to have to take a break here in a minute anyway. But there we go. Now I don't get to see Kyle because people tech-wise I get weird things, but Kyle's back. So Dave, thank you very much. And
thank you guys.
Okay, and I'm assuming Kyle's going to throw us to break.
Yes.
So we'll
thank
let
you,
that
Dave.
happen, and we'll talk soon, bud. And we'll have to have you back on sometime.
I'm always.
All right. Dan can't hear me, so I'm going to say we're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
Dave.
Thank you to Dave. Thank you to Dan. We'll be back in just a second.
Big news is on the way. 2 brand new sales shows and 2 classic shows are returning to the experience this week. Sign up for our mailing list to learn more.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Kyle. This is In Stores This Week. You are watching us on The Experience. If you could please head over to comicshoppingexperience.com, sign up for our mailing list. It's 3/4 of the way down the page or so. So you can get updates on the new stuff we're doing, like the new sales shows this week, like the return of 2 of Nick's sales shows, like the debut of Pop Goes the Writers with this guy.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, and my cohort Paul Story.
Yes. I had to move my camera because I had repositioned my body during that interview and realized my camera was no longer looking at me.
Dave was such a great story, just to work up from an intern to where he's running all the books now, and that
started from the mailing room. Now he's here.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. I wanted to. I would have liked to have asked him one question, but I unfortunately got pulled away, which is Zenescope. If you guys haven't been following, has been doing great stuff to support local comic book shops through the pandemic and beyond. So make sure you follow them on social media. They do live videos with local comic shops where they sell rare and exclusive covers and things of that nature to benefit local comic shops who support them. So make sure you're paying attention to those things.
I'm sorry, what? I wasn't paying attention. What are we talking about?
No, you're blowing me up. Who is texting me? Oh, it's Dan. Okay.
I was responding to Dave, who was thanking us for having it on.
You were. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. But no, it's Zenescope has done a great job supporting local comic book shops over the years, and they continue to do so. So make sure you support Zenescope, and make sure you support local comic shops by heading over to ComicShopLocator.com. typing in the zip code of the area where you are, and finding great local comic shops near you.
Mm-hmm. And I love the guys at Zenescope. They gave me, wasn't my first work, but it was the first series that basically walked in with a 24 part story idea, and they went, yeah, let's do that. Now, we didn't get to do the whole thing, but, I got 13 issues in, so.
Yeah. What was your first published work?
First published work was with was a short story, A Metal Hurlant. With
Yes.
I
We
did two of them.
discussed
One was with Mark Vigoro that ended up being turned into one of the episodes of the Metal Hurlant Chronicles TV series, and then the other was with Scott Benefiel about a dragon. So those were my first two work.
Yes. We discussed that last week or 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
So, to get back to books that are in stores this week, we were in the middle of DC when we cut to our interview with Dave. There you go. You guys have some crossover there.
Yeah, Scott's an absolute sweetheart. He really is, and just really, really good work. If you guys get a chance, go back, check out the work he's done work for DC and Marvel, but the work he did on the Dragon of the Northern Pass was the story we did, and just a short little story, but it was really fun.
Awesome. So, as I was saying, we're in the middle of the DC books coming into that last segment. So we'll pick up where we left off with Green Lantern #1. I'll be honest, it's my least favorite Lantern.
It's supposed to be Green Lantern #2.
Believe it or not, the image that the websites have for Green Lantern #2 is Green Lantern *1.
Oh, those bastards.
Right.
How dare they?
We're just going to talk about Green Lantern. It is Green Lantern #2.
Yes.
By Jeffrey Thorne and Dexter Soy and Marco Santucci.
Yep. And the solicitation matches the cover, so it could just be a problem on the cover. Because it says a guardian of the universe lies dead. That appears to be the grave of a guardian.
I bet the solicitation wrong. I bet it's actually a #1. The solicitation's wrong.
Oh, it could be.
It should be #1.
I don't remember a previous one, so yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't remember one either. So for those of you who don't know, part of what we have to do with this show is sometimes we get previews. In fact, I just forwarded Dan some previews from DC for future books, but a lot of times what we're basing this on is what retailers are using to make their decisions. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking at the cover and we're looking at the solicitation. And I usually look at the artist and writer team as a big factor for me.
Right.
So, the Guardian of the Universe lies dead and the universe teeters on the brink of war. Well, that would make sense if the Guardian of the Universe is dead.
Very true.
What's your favorite? Are the Green Lanterns your favorite Lantern Corps?
Yeah, I think it is. I like the Blue Corps a lot, the Hope Corps. Just some of the characters in it. But Green Lantern been around for years. I am a Hal Jordan guy, though I am a fan of Kyle Rayner too. But Hal was my guy, so I was happy when they brought him back.
This is a John Stewart story, which I was in on as part of an interview with Neil Adams.
Okay.
When we first launched the experience, and he was talking about how they came up with the name John Stewart, and like they wanted to name him like Franklin Washington. The editors did, and Neil Adams said, I went into editorial. I'm going, do you actually know anybody with a name like that? Why are you doing? Like, well, then you name it. He's like, no, pick any random name. And they're like, no, you have to name him then. If we can't name him what we want him, you've got to name him, and it's got to be on you. So he goes, fine, John Stewart. And he goes, how would I know that he would go on to become a famous late night comedian?
Though spelled different. No H.
True.
Yep. I like the character, and it always struck me as odd that Marvel or DC was doing having him take over for Hal around the same time that Rhodey was taking over for Tony Stark.
Yeah.
There's so many parallels in comics where you're like, oh, hey, what are they doing over there? You know?
Yeah, let me do that too. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it worked both ways.
So this book is it's the United Planets and the Green Lantern Corps are getting together. And it all kind of falls apart. And John Stewart is reassigned to the role of an ambassador with a surprise appearance from the newest Green Lanterns. That may be all that stands between the Corps and oblivion.
See, there's certain lanterns that make a lot of sense to me. John Stewart makes a lot of sense to me because he's an engineer.
Okay.
Kyle Rayner makes a lot of sense to me because he's an artist. Hal is a test pilot, and so I get the willpower thing. Guy Gardner?
Well, he's the worst Lantern. I mean,
Is he?
Guy Gardner is worst Lantern.
Worse than Nort?
Yeah, I would say so. Why he makes no sense. Why they should kick him out of the group for being dumb.
Yeah. I liked when he was a Red Lantern. I thought that was a better fit for him.
And so the Red Lantern are my favorite Corps.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
I tend to identify, with that sort of those sort of kind of emotional involvements.
You just like them because they have a kitty.
That certainly doesn't hurt their cause. But also, I've always felt like they were a good balance to the Green Corps.
Yeah.
That they were a good balance, just like the Black Lanterns were a good balance to the Blue Lanterns. Yeah. And purple was a good balance to white. And it sort of leveled off.
Yeah. I think what Jeff Johns did with all these different cores and stuff was brilliant.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not one for revisionist history where they go back and expand, but this worked so well.
He did a very good job with that. So this is a new number 1 in stores this week, or it's a number 2.
Yeah. There's a Green Lantern book.
Somebody's wrong. There's something wrong, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's right. There's a Dead Guardian. Go read it.
Right. Which is a whole different book than the new Dead Guardians, but okay.
Yeah.
Last book from DC is from our friend Ram V. And it's Man-Thing in the DC universe, aka Swampy.
That appears to be 2 Poison Ivies on the cover.
Reeling from his battle with the Pale Wanderer, Levi Kami seeks the true nature of his transformations. And what better place to find his roots than the heart of the green itself? There, he and Jennifer will encounter the realm's many denizens, including one known as Holland and Poison Ivy. Who will aid Levi and who will harm him? If he is to pull Jennifer and himself back to the real world, Levi will need all the help he can get to tame the swamp thing running wild within.
By the way, nice read inflection on the question mark. That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
Yeah. Thank you. But look, Ron V and Mike Perkins. I think the fact that Ivy is there is weird, and I think the fact that Jennifer looks kind of like Ivy is also very interesting.
Yes. Hey, I noticed in the listing it said 3 of 10. I don't remember it having a finite number before.
It wasn't a mini series until I believe that announcement came last week that this is going to be a 10-issue arc now. And according to Ram, that's not to say it's only ever going to be 10 issues, but right now they're limiting it 10.
Okay.
So
I love the fact that we've got a week where we can go in the store and buy a Swamp Thing and a Man Thing comic on the same day.
It's true.
Muck Monsters Unite.
Yes, absolutely. So again, Rom has been crushing this book. It's like I said, right now it's sort of limited to a 10-issue arc. But he has alluded that it might go longer than that.
Good. It's a good book.
And it may be 10 issues, volume 1, and then hiatus and 5 issues, one of those kind of deals where it's a 10-issue mini, but then he comes back and does another 10 issues or something. He's been very kind of coy about it, as I would imagine you'd have to be. So we, there's not a lot to know, but there's certainly a lot of interest here. So
yeah, JD Smith in the chat is doing a lot of good one-liners.
Mm-hmm. He is. Let's head over here to some of the books that were on both of our lists this week.
Right.
Like for instance, the Orville Digressions, 1 of 2.
Yeah, now, I know that the Orville got the axe, so this will be the only way we get Orville going forward.
There's a rumor that it's being shopped at streaming services and that there's one that's interested. It's one that also may have another similar spacey show where people wore red shirts.
Star Wars?
Yeah, Star Wars. No, the rumor was that CBS All Access was interested. So
I think it should go on Peacock just because I think that's a network for the Orville would be Peacock would be a perfect network for the Orville.
I will keep people up to date as I find out more. One of my friends is one of the leads of this show. Actually, 2 of my friends are leads of this show. I know them through each other, so it's an interesting dichotomy. But it's one of my favorite shows with some of my favorite people.
I'm trying to think of who on the show you know. I'm assuming I can't think of her name right now, but she was Mockingbird on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah. So
her brother writes a book at Scout Comics.
Right.
They're both from Toledo. The parents would come to me to buy his comic books.
I'm thinking the other guy is the guy with the beard down the bottom left.
It is, and they were briefly married, so that's how I know them.
Oh, that was cold, by the way, folks. I did not know any of that.
Yes. And it's funny because I know him from something different than I know her, but she introduced me to him, and I didn't. It's a long story, but it's a thing. But yes, Adrian Palicki, yes,
and her brother Eric Palicki.
Yep, her brother is Eric Palicki, writer of Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists at Scouts, editor of All We Ever Wanted, This Nightmare Was Built for Fascists, and the third, I can't think of the third one, but they were anthologies at A Wave Blue World. Great writer, great guy.
This book is being done by David A. Goodman and David Cabeza.
Yes.
Sorry,
I mean, let's talk about the Orville. Let's talk about, this book, which is, a prequel to the season 2 finale. And David Goodman was the EP on the show. So it's coming from the people who were writing the show and working on the show at the time. Telling this story, which happens before the end of season 2, which the end of season 2 was a huge cliffhanger.
Right. So I think JD's accusing you of being a T-shirt thief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I not a problem there. But it's like I said, I really love the show. I really love Adrian. So I hope it comes back somewhere. But if it can't come back somewhere, I would love for the stories to be told in comic form. And, it's interesting. Firefly has had an incredibly rich life after the show got canceled in comic form.
Oh, yeah.
So it wouldn't shock me to see the show not come back, but to have a ton of stories told this way.
networks pull the plug on sci-fi shows way too early. Firefly.
Well, Fox needed to
Orville.
make room for that 90s show and, some of the other things they canceled perfectly good programming for. So,
Yeah. I'm thinking back to Almost Human with Carl Urban and Michael Ealy. That was just brilliant.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. What else we got?
Both of us had Eden on our list, I believe.
No, actually, I had Eve.
Oh, you had Eve? I knew there was an ebook on both of our lists.
Yeah.
But we'll hit Eden since I clicked on it.
Cullen
Eden
Bunn.
is a one.
Cullen Bunn.
Yes, Eden is a one-shot from Cullen Bunn and Source Point Press. Or not Source Point Press, Aftershock Comics. Sorry. So it's the story of this tattoo artist who kind of is just making his way through the world, not really enjoying it all that much. Kind of a repetitive thing. Like, he's in a rut. All that changes when this girl named Eden walks through the door. She's looking for a very specific thing, and she finds it in this tattoo artist named Niles. But Eden is a woman who has a ton more going for her and a ton more happening with her than it would seem. And not the least of which is how each of her tattoos vanish after only a couple of days.
That's a lot of pain to go through.
Yes. This is one of those things about how love can be incredibly scary. And when supernatural things are involved, it could be even more scary. So this is a prestige format, square-bound book from Cullen Bunn. It's a horror romance.
You don't seem to want to take a shot at the artist's name, do you?
No, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Because it's Dalibor Talajic.
Very good.
I work for Aftershock about this much. I got a pronunciation guide.
Nice.
But he did Witchhammer and Relay for Aftershock. This is one of those things where the whole story is in one, but it leaves you hanging on, wishing there were more. It's one of those books that's supposed to leave you it's supposed to leave you wishing there was a second part to the one shot, and there just isn't.
Yet.
Isn't.
Yeah.
From what I'm told, there won't be. So it's one of those things is that it's kind of you write the end of the story in your head kind of thing. Like you figure out how you want it to end that won't mess you up too bad. So you mentioned it. I meant to click on it. We have Eve, #1 from Boom Studios by Victor LaValle. I don't even know how to explain this one without spoiling it in a big way. I've been working all week to get Victor on the air with us to kind of talk about this book because I knew it would be one of those that it's just better if the writer tells you what you're reading than trying to figure it out. But if you read Little Bird or Undiscovered Country, this is a book for you. It's basically about it's a dystopian future America, and it's about this girl who and her teddy bear essentially who have to travel across the country in order to save the world. The ice caps have melted. Most of humanity was lost to hidden disease. Now this girl Eve has awoken in a secret in secret and must deal with a world that's nothing like the virtual reality she was raised in. A little bit The Matrix, a little bit
Commandy.
A little bit Commandy, a little bit The Matrix, a little bit Shailene Woodley was in it. It was a movie.
Oh, Divergent.
In order to save her real father, Eve must embark on a deadly quest across the country, but she has no idea of the threats that await her or the price she will pay to restore the life to a dying planet. I've read the first 6 pages. This book is bananas. But everything Victor writes is bananas. I remember when he wrote Destroyer, which was kind of the first book that put him on my radar. And that may be his first work. I don't remember for sure. But I remember reading that book going, okay, this is absolutely insane. Why is this thing happening? Okay, so he worked on Hellblazer before Destroyer, but Destroyer was crazy. Destroyer was a crazy Frankenstein story. This is a crazy kind of divergent futuristic story. I mean, what did you think on it, Dan? What were your thoughts? Did you have any?
I got the commandy feel about it by looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Having seen some of Victor's earlier work, it definitely caught my eye. It's something I haven't had a chance to see the pages yet. But yeah, it's something I'm going to be picking up tomorrow, at least taking a look at. I love the cover. I love the look on the bear, like he's scouting ahead.
There's also worth note, I don't have the imagery for it because I couldn't get it to save out of the email it was in, but there is a very cool Merca and Dolfo variant.
Nice.
So.
Cool.
All right. Dan, did you have anything else on your list?
Yeah, I had a couple things. I had Invincible Red Sonja #1.
Aha.
Which, if we don't talk about, we may be visited by a ghost.
Yes. Why is that not loaded up? Let me load that up.
Okay, while he's loading it up, there are
2 books that I don't have loaded up. Let me get those taken care of.
Okay. Dynamite has been doing a lot of great stuff with both Red Sonja and Vampirella over the last few months. This is a new series, Invincible Red Sonja #1. And it's Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor writing it, with the artist Moritat drawing it. So Amanda and Jimmy writing it right there should be worth the ticket alone. Sonja finds herself in a spectacular journey filled with pirates, mermaids, princesses, and political intrigue that threaten as the threat of 2 kingdoms hang in the balance. All this plus a spectacular art of Moritat. You got the Amanda Connors cover. You've got Joseph Michael Linsner covers. There is just an amazing set of covers for this. That's the Amanda Connor one. That's the A cover. And this one's got me excited. I love what they're doing with the characters over there. And this one's, jumping on a #1, something new. I really enjoyed Jimmy's writing on stuff like All-Star Western when he was doing that. A lot of stuff he was doing with Justin Gray when they were teaming up. So I'm really curious to see what he and Amanda can do together. And this is definitely one I'm taking off the shelf and taking home with me tomorrow.
Absolutely. Jimmy and Amanda made some, in interviews and stuff, talked about how, they had spent a lot of time doing books for Marvel or for DC, and they wanted to do some stuff that they could kind of control the stories on, and that there were a couple of known IPs that they would like to mess with. And this was one that they had, kind of thrown out there. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of, in the interview with me, alluding to it, going, hey, we're going to do something that you're going to want to talk about. And going to be invincible. And, it's, all of these kind of jokes where it was like, I just wasn't getting it. I was being completely dumb. But then they announced this at Comics Pro, and I was very excited about it. These guys, Jimmy and Amanda, bring a sensibility to comics that you saw a lot in their Harley Quinn book. You've seen in the other things they've done together. And that beyond this, what they're doing is creator-owned stuff that they do. Crowdfunding and stuff. So I would go ahead while I'm doing this and plug paperfilms.com, which is their website. Yes. But also that this is a rocket ship, man. This is the kind of book that puts Red Sonja back on the map for a lot of people, for maybe whom Red Sonja had been off the radar for a minute. And so this is a good opportunity, I think, to jump in on a character that maybe you haven't known before, but the writers, the creators, what Jimmy and Amanda can do. It's a known commodity.
Yep. And the fact that Dynamite is actually launching a new title, this isn't the normal Red Sonja book. This is the Invincible Red Sonja. So yeah, that's how much confidence they seem to have in it to launch a brand new title.
Absolutely. So what else do we got, Dan?
I have a trade paperback on there. The Judge Dredd False Witness trade paperback is the only trade paperback I picked this week, and mainly because of the writer on it. Because I haven't read any Judge Dredd in a while, and I definitely want to. But Brandon Easton, who I got to meet a few years ago at a free comic book day, he's a really good guy. He's writing so many things now. He's involved with TV work. He worked on the Agent Carter series in the second season, and kind of gave me some of the inside scoop on what the third season would have been if they had stuck around. Brandon is just an amazing guy. If you get to see him at a convention, go up to him. The art is by Ki Zama, and basically it's a Judge Dredd trade paperback. Justice Academy dropout Matthias Lincoln always survived by sublegal means, but after uncovering a vast conspiracy, he finds himself pursued by legendary lawman Judge Dredd. Get ready for a street-level look at justice in Mega City 1 as one person fights to expose the dark secrets of the rich and powerful in a thrilling mystery set against a backdrop of a media manipulation and social unrest. While on a job for a rich client, Justice Academy dropout. He just reads it again. Okay. So, we're basically following a guy who was on his way to being a judge and didn't make it, dropped out. And now he's got some dirt on the higher ups, and they've sent Judge Dredd after him. And anybody who gets sent, they send Judge Dredd after, usually gets got. So in this, in this, Dredd's kind of the bad guy. Yeah,
if the judge is coming for you, you're in trouble.
Yeah. So we get to see this from a different point of view. I like the name Matthias Lincoln. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like Brandon Easton. I mean, I think him on the judge is a good fit. I don't know much about this book. I haven't been following Judge Dredd, but I mean, I've seen the movies. I know what a Judge Dredd is. So I think Brandon Easton, with his style of storytelling, is a very good fit for the judge.
Yeah. I think any streaming service out there ought to get Carl Urban to come back and do the second Dredd movie that they've always talked about.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about Baby Teeth number 17. Normally you don't talk about something this far into a run. But this is relevant because it's Donny Cates. And this book has been on hiatus now for 2.5 years, maybe a little longer. Donnie left this book to go, Venom, to go do everything he's been doing with the big publishers.
He's been a little busy, yeah.
Yeah. And so the pitch on Baby Teeth is that it's Rosemary's Baby meets Juno. Kind of a teenage unwed mother is giving birth to the Antichrist. And it's about all the terrible things that have come to her family because of it. And so when Donnie left after issue 16, everybody knew there were only 21 issues. But he just couldn't keep going. They couldn't keep it going. So they stopped. And now we're back with the last 4 issues of maybe the most popular book ever to come out of Aftershock. The inevitable is here. The apocalypse is here. What happens now? Donnie Cates and Gary Brown, who have been on this from the beginning. Absolutely fabulous book. Absolutely a lot of fun as a read. If you haven't read it, pick it up. I realize that could have been a better sell, but I don't really feel like I need to sell Donnie Cates.
Right.
Speaking of people I shouldn't have to sell, Hey Kids Comics, Volume 2, Number 1, Profits and Loss by Howard Chaykin from Image Comics. This is more of his Hey Kids Comics stories that he's been telling. New story arc. They've known for years at the beginning of the end, so why won't the damn business just die already? Hopes and dreams are floated and crushed again. But new blood with new eyes can see a new path emerging from the mist, a fog that veterans thought hid one more cliff. Howard is a guy who I think we can all recognize is maybe a little jaded by his time in the industry. He and I are of a kindred spirit in that we're both strong contrarians. We both will pick a fight just to argue with somebody. And we're both foodies. We both would rather go to the restaurant than be at the Comic-Con. So it's it's an interesting. He's an interesting friend to have. But these are stories from inside his head about the life he's lived. So Howard, Hey Kids Comics.
Yeah, Howard's a fun interview.
I love interviewing Howard.
I tried to interview him about The Shadow, and turns out he's not necessarily a Shadow fan, and is very vocal about it.
When I wanted to talk to him about The Shadow, I talked to him about working with Bill Sienkiewicz.
There you go.
Who he did like. And, it's one of those It's one of those things is that what I've learned with Howard is you have to ask him questions from the right perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can't kiss his ass.
No, I found talking to him about Chicago worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
My dad grew up in Chicago, was born and raised in Chicago. So I got to talk to him about that. And we had a huge conversation. Tried to talk to him about comic stuff. Not so good.
Yeah, no, it's true. You got to start with something and then go there. But that being said, this is a great book. The first volume was great. Howard hasn't lost a step. He has another book coming in the future from Image with another legendary creator that Howard is writing and that person is drawing.
Oh, interesting.
That I'm not sure either of them were supposed to tell us is coming. But it's coming from Image Comics called Schmuggy and Bimbo.
I'm there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't need to know who the other creator is. I don't need to know what the story is about. It's Schmuggy and Bimbo. I'm there.
Well, think about which creator you could hear saying those words in a thick Brooklyn accent.
Somebody with lots of J's and R's in his name?
Possibly. All right. A book that was started at Avatar Press by Alan Moore, but has been continued by other people. The Nightmares of Providence, number 1. This is a continuation. The Nightmares of Providence is a 64-page black and white saddle-stitch book featuring all new art and exploring the world and terrors of Providence from a huge range of talents, including Gabriel Andrade, Christian Zahner, Ivan Rodriguez, and featuring Daniel Greet. Look, this is the H.P. Lovecraft part of the story. Alan Moore started the Providence story, and this is the continuation of it. I'm not really going to sell it too hard. It's a hard book to sell, but if you're into that kind of horror, pick it up.
Lovecraft is dense. He writes things very thick. They're hard to get through. Alan Moore writes the same way. They're a perfect pairing. So this series he created is exactly what you would expect from the two. And now you've got other writers coming in.
Yes. Let me click the next thing. This is Punchline and the Vaudevillains.
None of these books were on your list you sent me.
I understand. There were some that I missed.
Okay.
Because I was working from an incomplete list to begin with.
Right.
Punchline and the Vaudevillains. This is from the Hero Tomorrow universe. So if you read Tap Dance Killer or Bloom, which came out a few weeks ago, this book is in that universe. Punchline is that clown there on the cover. And it's just Ted Sikora telling more stories from this sort of world that he is building. I would suggest going back and reading Tap Dance Killer. You can get the trade from Ted or from Henri Compen in the virtual signing show that we have on here Thursdays or Fridays, moving to 5:00. Ted will be back on in a few weeks to talk about this and Bloom, which is now out through Diamond. So just something else to be on the lookout for. Really, really, really small press.
Love the term vaudevillains. I love that. That's a good words.
Well, Punchline the clown is trained in that vaudeville style, and he's not necessarily a good dude. So he is literally a vaudevillain.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that. I like the Hero Tomorrow universe. It's a strong universe that Ted has worked really hard to keep tight. Bloom is the Apama is the strangest part of it, which Apama is kind of like, in some ways, Commandy, in some ways.
Two Commandy references in one episode.
In some ways, other things, but Ted's a great writer, and the story is really tight. So,
cool.
We'll do another book that I'm relatively sure wasn't on the list I sent you, which is Beckstar #1 from Mad Cave Studios. Beckstar is Star Wars meets Firefly meets The Sopranos. Yeah. And here's what I mean by that is it's set in space, it's smugglers, it's black market, but also there's a real heavy mob influence in it. It takes a lot of influence from the manga world and that universe as well. Really interesting book from a couple of kind of underappreciated creators. Joe Corallo, who writes it, also wrote She Said Destroy, and a couple of other things for A Wave Blue World and TKO. So he's somebody who's kind of on the up, that I think is going to be a mover and a shaker in this sort of realm.
Cool. Like the concept.
Yeah, I did too. Now I think we're to all books that I know were on my list. Okay. So you're not going to be. I'm going to talk though about one book that doesn't have a cover shot. I don't have a cover image for. And it's been. I got to look just to see what year this came out. So this book has been coming out essentially once a year since 2017. Except it skipped 2019. So Last Song is it's a story of an artist, a creator who owes his life to rock and roll in that way. But when it comes to becoming a star, what happens? How do you become a star, and what are you willing to sacrifice to become a star? The first volume takes place in the 80s, and it moves on through now. This is the last issue. It was only ever a 4-part story. The interesting things about this book is that the end has a playlist of books of music to listen to that is not only referenced but inspires the story.
Interesting.
It's referenced in the story and it inspires the story. I'll say this for last song. This book is on my list and has been on my list since 2017. They're big, thick books. They're like 64-page books from Black Mask Studios. This book has had a nightmarish time coming out. But every issue has been incredibly insightful. And as someone who spent a lot of time in that industry, the music industry, incredibly painful to read at times. Triggering, but perfect in every way. So I'm really excited for this book.
Cool.
Even though I have no idea what it's going to look like. And I'm relatively sure my local comic shop probably forgot to order it for me. So, from Image Comics, The Good Asian.
Yes.
Yes.
Good luck on the names.
I know how to say the first person's name, but I can't do it without laughing.
Pornsack?
Yes. It's Pornshak Pitch Shanti.
Shanti? There's no N anywhere in there.
Pitch Shati.
Okay.
Pichati. It's Nick would be able to say it. It's very Italian. But this is the follow-up to Infidel.
Is Pornsack Italian?
I think it's Pornsock.
Pornsock, okay.
I'm not gonna try on the artist name. But here's the thing. This is the follow-up to Infidel, which came out from Image a while back, written by the same people. It's a crime noir story set in the 30s in Chinatown, and it's kind of a look at the way Asian Americans, especially Chinese Americans, have been treated down through the years. And this is the story of sort of their own organized crime story. One of the great sort of looking for endorsements is from Brian Azzarello that says, like any good noir, a sense of dread hangs off every page of The Good Asian, a brittle story that takes place during an unfair time in our history that is tragically all too familiar now in our present.
I love the term a brittle story. That's really
well, it's Brian Azzarello. Even his sound bites are going to be well written.
Yeah.
But part of why this book really appeals to me is that May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Here at The Experience, we will be celebrating with an event coming to you at the end of the month that is being organized by one of the great Asian American creators. I would have never called her an Asian Asian American creator, but that is, what she is. She would just been, hey, that person who wrote that thing that was awesome. More announcements on that to come next week, but it's being organized by the community for the community, and it's going to be great. So make sure you check out The Good Asian. Dan, we only have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to go into that thing where I go really fast.
Go for it. I'll brace myself.
All right. I'm going to open up my notes on the last couple books. I said I was going to go really fast, and I'm like, but I better open my notes.
We
so
don't
we're
have
going to
that
start
many
here.
left.
ENIAC. Huh?
We don't have that many left.
No, we're going to start here with ENIAC number 3 from Bad Idea. Guys, this is a Bad Idea book. This is the story of the supercomputer from World War II that becomes sentient. Written by Matt Kint, who's on fire right now. Just a super fun book so far. There are only 4 issues in the first story arc. Most stores, if you don't have 1 and 2, you won't be able to get number 3. But make sure you are at least trying to pick this book up. It will be in not first printings.
But they're not doing trades, right?
They are not doing trades, but the not first printings of both issues are available. Of all issues are available. So you may have to pick up not first printings in order to jump in on it. So that's a thing. Also from Bad Idea, we have Whalesville, number 1, also by Matt Kint. I wonder if Matt Kint has time to sleep or if he just writes, because he's writing everything, it seems like. I'm just gonna read this one because it's so perfect. Never thought you'd see a bad idea like this from the limitless imaginations of New York Times bestselling writer Matt Kint and veteran artist Adam Polina and Eisner Award-winning colorist Matt Hollingsworth comes a very special whale tale for all ages and species in the tradition of Hayao Miyazaki and Pixar. When young Wei Wei, the seaborn son of a whaling captain, is thrown overboard and swallowed whole by a whale, he knows his father will relentlessly pursue revenge against the creature that stole his boy. What he didn't expect, however, is what he's about to find inside the town of Whalesville, a colorful, cobbled-together village inhabited by an astounding collection of talking sea creatures, including a crab named Caleb, an anglerfish named Angela, and a sea dragon that prefers to go by Lily. But to Wei Wei's new friends, Whalesville isn't just their home. It's the whole world, and they don't understand the danger now pursues them from above the waves, or that they aren't inside a whale at all. To rescue his new best buddies, Wei Wei will have to convince them of the truth and save Whalesville before his own father sends them sinking into the inky depths forever. So it's the story of a town inside the belly of a whale.
This reminds me a tiny bit of one of Sinbad's voyages where they end up on this little island that turns out to be the back of a whale.
Yeah.
So I love this. That is awesome.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great story.
Yep.
Okay, from Scout Comics, we have Broken Souls Ballad number 1. This is a horror book by Massimo Rossi. St. Abigail's Institute creates monsters, and those monsters are teenagers. As if being a teenager wasn't bad enough, imagine being a teenager on the island of Dr. Moreau. So this book is the island of Dr. Moreau meets not another teen movie or any of those kind of things. The story begins as several teens discover that they possess out of the ordinary abilities, in each case related to their psychosomatic conditions. The resulting trauma caused by this horrific discovery leads them to stray from their normal teenage lives, some to seek answers, others in a desperate attempt to escape their terrible fate. Meanwhile, a mysterious organization working for the government tracks down the kids with the goal of bringing them home.
All right.
Yeah, it's a creepy looking book. It's a creepy book. I like creepy books.
Okay, you got 3 books, 6 minutes.
I have 2 books. 6 minutes. I can do that. This book was almost my pick of the week, but it got put off by another book. This is Behemoth Comics, who everybody who watches this show knows I have been absolutely in love with recently. This one is Junkie Cable. The year is 29XX, which I believe is 2920.
Yes.
Alistair, the death surgeon, and Cheap, the code thief, are 2 criminals and lovers out searching for their stepdaughter, Siri. Their journey begins in the Bounty City, Nibel, and will stretch out to industrial New Okinawa. And along the journey, they will encounter numerous enemies, trials, cyborgs, and nutcases, while a mysterious enemy emerges from their past to hunt them down. So this is sort of a love and crime story set in a futuristic Japan. It's got a real heavy manga and cartoon influence. But it's all done by Claudio Avella, written, drawn, colored, everything.
Nice.
So I like the idea, and I'm willing, at this point, anything Behemoth puts out, I'm willing to take a stab on, is kind of where I'm at with it. This sounds particularly interesting because it's, two people who you might not think are the best parents probably doing some pretty great parenting. So that is...
You saved Garth Ennis for last?
I did save Garth Ennis for last.
Nice.
Yeah. Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal. Which, if you hear him say it, sounds so much cooler than when I say it. Because it's like, Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal. And that's a really bad impression that I apologize for. But hearing him talk about it, I read this book actually already. It is it's Garth's take on Firefly. If Firefly was a time travel story. And an interdimensional one at that. And I'm going to read this solicitation again, because it's written so well. I feel like Garth probably wrote it.
Can you do it in Garth's voice?
She's Marjorie Finnegan, the temporal criminal. What more do you need to know? Oh, all right then. All Marge wants to do is race up and down time lanes, stealing every shiny, gleamy, pretty, sparkly she can lay her hands on. But her larcenous trail from Big Bang to the 95th Reich has drawn the beady eye of the temporal PD, whose number one deputy marshal is now hard on our heroine's tail and taking things extremely personally. Worse still, Marge is a worthless creep of an ex, and his even scummier partner have seen an angle of their own in all this and now intend to use her time tech to change history for their own benefit. Marge's only ally, a guy called Tim. And he's just ahead. I mean, come on. What use is just ahead? The thing about this is that she travels through time, and every time she does, it's the butterfly effect. Every time she does, it has consequences up and down the timeline that she's not really thinking about. And it at the same time, there are people who are coattailing her that are having even bigger, more noticeable effects.
I totally get the feeling that Garth Ennis went, you don't want me to write to the goddamn Doctor Who, I'll make my own.
Kinda.
Yeah.
So it definitely has that Doctor Who-y feel to it as well. But this book, I got a PDF of it to read, and I absolutely loved it. There is a really cool Glenn Fabry cover, the B. He's done a variant cover for it that is
cover, isn't it?
Phenomenal. Huh?
Is the A Brian Bolden cover?
Regular cover artist is Andy Clark.
Oh.
Variants by Mike Diodato, Frank Cho, and Glenn Fabry.
That's a good group of people to do covers.
Mm-hmm. Artist is Goran Suzuka.
Mm-hmm.
So, Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal is my pick of the week.
Nice.
So, this has been in stores this week. I have been Kyle. He has been Dan. Tune in Saturday at a time that I will let you know about for Dan's other new show, Pop Goes the Writers, where Dan and his compatriots talk about stuff.
We break down some of the latest pop culture stuff based from a writer's point of view. I'm joined by comic writer Paul Story. I believe the episode we'll be running has Ray Anthony Height as our guest, and we'll be talking about the final episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I want to thank Dave Franchini for jumping in and giving us all the inside scoop on Zenescope. Hopefully we'll get some other publishers to pop in here, get some of their reps in. So, if you're sitting at home watching this and you got it, you want to come on. Image, Top Cow, Henry Barajas.
I'll send some emails. We will talk soon. We will talk very soon, guys. Again, for Dan, I have been Kyle. This has been The Experience. We will see everybody tomorrow here on The Experience. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Big news is on the way. 2 brand new sales shows and 2 classic shows are returning to The Experience this week. Sign up for our mailing list to learn more.